What's up, everybody? You're listening to Salah's Corner with the one and only Salah Muhammad. So I had a conversation with a coworker of mine. He's a little older, baby boomer. And within that conversation, we talked about the importance of pursuing a career of passion or pursuing a career for financial stability. Now, his obvious answer was just financial stability. You got to take care of family. You got to pay bills. You got to do all the things that society says you need to get a career to do. Not for any satisfaction, not for creativity, not for individualism, just to make sure that you are stable. And in my core, that just contradicted everything that I am and represent and what I try to achieve. And I think that's something that's representative in a lot of millennials. I hate to refer to myself as a millennial, but whatever. It's something that we truly believe is, not all, but we truly believe is not worth sacrificing. Creativity and individualism is something that just can't be replaced. It can't be substituted for anything else. And we've seen that within some of these baby boomers in the workforce. They retire unhappy. It doesn't guarantee them the financial stability. And what did you dedicate yourself to a company for 30, 40, 50 years for, ultimately to have nothing at the end? So today I am sitting with a local Philly blogger. Her name is Carlita. She is owner of Carlita's Closet. You can find her on Instagram, Facebook, and her website, Carlita's Closet. But we had that specific talk mainly because she was able to leave the workforce and find a job where she can pursue something that was much more meaningful, impactful, and passionate to her desires. We had a conversation about that and, of course, what her blog represents and what she's able to do with her creativity now that she has this free time. I'm sure a lot of you are wondering how I make my podcast sound so crisp and clean. Well, I have to thank the folks at Rec Philly. They provide me the space, the time, and equipment to make this podcast happen. And it doesn't just end there. It's also an opportunity to connect with other creative individuals just like me. And not just other podcasters. I'm talking writers, musicians, photographers, anyone that considers themselves a creative individual. So if that's you, head on down to Rec Philly. It is super affordable. The memberships are great, and it's an opportunity to flex your creative muscles. If that's you, I hope to see you there soon. Carlita, what's going on? How you making out today?
Hey, Salah. I'm doing good.
Thank you for finally hounding me and making this happen. I know it's something that I've wanted to do, and I know you wanted to do this as well.
I've been so excited to be a guest.
So I'm glad we are able to have this discussion. And it really kind of started with one of the episodes I did with that good friend, LaShawn, who's an HR manager.
Yes, that one really resonated with me.
Tell me why that episode resonated with you.
In particularly, that episode really resonated with me being a millennial and just recently have gone through like a major career change and kind of transitioning into a job where I'm not in HR, but I am in recruiting. So I'm seeing how HR works and definitely see like a lack of minority within the industry. And it just really resonated with me, too, coming from like technical fields. Women are lacking in that field.
Yeah, we used to work together for, I don't know, what was that, three or 4 years? I don't know how long I've been there.
Yeah, it was a while.
But we worked together for a while, and, you leaving, what sparked you making that career change? Because I feel like that's been something that's played into a lot of millennials and how they feel when tackling career and some of the things that are contrary to what the common belief is when we go into the workforce.
Oh, most definitely. I think it was like a major thing for my mom to take that I was going to quit a job I had been at for about 5 years and was doing pretty well at. She was like, why would you leave this company? You have your 401k with them. Like, you've started all investing early, blah, blah, blah. And I'm just like, Mom, that's not what's important to me. Like, what's important to me is at the end of the day, being happy about what I'm doing, what I'm bringing, professional development as well as personal development. I feel like as millennials, we get to a point where we're in a job. When you've been there for 3 or 4 years, you kind of have gone up the ladder. You've seen, what you can achieve at that corporation, and it just kind of personally realizes how much more you can tap into.
It's so funny that you say this. I was just talking to Bree about this, and I was looking back on my career, and I don't think I've ever stayed in one position for more than like 2-3 years.
Right.
And I get this burning itch to just like, I gotta get out of here. I gotta do something different. I have to improve what I'm doing. I have to change the flow. And is that something that you felt?
Definitely. And again, I think like being our generation, we want to make an impact, and we don't just want to go to work to have a job and have a paycheck.
So let's backtrack. So how old are you?
I just turned 25.
That's funny. I actually didn't even know the answer to that question. So you take it back to as you're just leaving high school, probably. I'm setting the scene, the scenario. That I don't know if you lived this, but you just left high school. You're starting college, and I know for me personally, there was a belief of you work hard, you prove yourself, you are expected to work for one company, you stay there for 40, 50 years, you get your pension, your 401k, whatever, and you go into retirement and you live a long and everlasting life. Is that the pipe dream that you were sold?
Definitely in a sense, for sure. My parents definitely grew up with that same kind of mentality. My dad was an entrepreneur, so he had his own business, like construction business, but still like would never have done anything different, would never have switched major career paths and done something completely unknown, which is something like I think we as a generation embrace.
Right.
Those challenges and being scared and not knowing you're going to be the best at something, but willing to try it and see if you succeed or fail. And that's something I really think has broken between the generations, between our parents and us. And in particularly, back to the dream, I don't want to stay someplace and just have a pension and retire. I want to know that it's personally fulfilling. And what I'm doing is making an impact not only on my life, but others.
It's funny because I have a lot of internal debates in my head, actually. But one that I always have is, which is kind of sad that you even have to choose this, whether it's choosing a career on, and I think I even asked this within my Instagram, choosing career on passion or choosing a career on financial stability. And it's a shame that has been something that was the expectation in the past, that I think our generation is finally trying to change and break. But it's coming at a sacrifice for a lot of people, because choosing that career of passion means you're sacrificing some financial stability.
Definitely. That's definitely a struggle within, our generation. But something I think we're more so willing to stray away from, those traditional jobs where you're staying somewhere and, yes, it might be more financially rewarding, but at the end of the day, is it personally rewarding? I think a lot of people are kind of having that self-reflection and just realizing that there are other avenues now too for extra profit, such as social media. You could have a blog on the side, or, you could have something that's going to be giving you extra income on top of whatever you're doing full time.
So perfect segue, you left the company you were working for. Has that allowed you the opportunity to pursue some of those things that you were more passionate about, while trying to build your financial stability and maintain your financial stability?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I didn't quit my job not having a job in place. I couldn't do that. I do have a mortgage to pay.
Sometimes I do wish I can do that, though.
I know. It would be nice. And I do know people who have done it.
It's a scary thing.
It's very scary. And I give them all the power because they're brave souls to do that. But, I definitely needed to have something that I knew was going to at least net me, X, Y, Z at the end of the month to pay my bills. And I made sure the job I am currently working was going to offer that. And, but yeah, overall, it just allowed me to have so much more time to myself and to putting into my blog and to doing things. Like I never had a weekend off. Even throughout high school, I worked in high school. So from like 16 to 24, I was working every weekend.
And that's something that I don't think our I think our parents' generation has really taken into account. back in the day, and I blame baby boomers for a lot of things. One of the biggest things I blame them for is our current state of workforce and the expectations that surround that. You know, I think I saw a post on Instagram recently, and it talked about how everybody's 40-hour work week is just not the same, you know, because some people work weekends. And,
oh, yeah.
you know, kind of like what you were saying, they don't have the opportunity to do the things that other people that work a 9 to 5 Monday to Friday have the opportunity to do. Sometimes they work nights. Sometimes they're traveling over, you know, an hour just to get to work by public transportation. So there's a lot of different factors that today's workforce is putting so much more of a burden on millennials that our baby boomer generation, I don't think, considered as we started to, as we make our way into today's life. Like, do you blame baby boomers as much as I do? Like, I feel
do.
like they're it's their fault.
Especially for company cultures,
Yeah.
in particularly. With corporations, especially, you know, within America, I think there's like a big gap in how they should be treating employees. You know, like there's definitely less women that should, or, you know, that need to be in higher places, like, you know, and minorities, the same respect. You know, over in Europe and Switzerland, you know, they value that work-life balance so much more, and they become so much more productive as employees that I think we should take note. As far as like holiday goes and siesta, nap in the middle of the day and things like that.
Seriously, do you know how productive I could be if I had a nap in the middle of my day? I get up and I leave for work at a little before 7 a.m. I don't get home until after 6 p.m. I need a nap. Like, I need a nap in the middle of that day. Otherwise, I'm just coming home, eating, and then going to sleep, which...
And I can definitely relate to that. I wake up at like 5:30 most mornings to get into the city on the train. And then I'm in the city until 5:30 p.m. And yeah, like it's just a cycle that, yeah, it's hard to get that time that you finally, you know, want to cherish and have to yourself. And I think we really, as a generation, realize how much more valuable that is than even a financial, you know, paycheck at the end of the day. I spoke with someone today, and he said, you know, working for the company he works at, he wants to stay because they value family more than anything. And being a father, he said that's worth its weight in gold.
Right. It is. It certainly is. I'm trying to recall a study or not a study. I'm trying to recall a profile in some company, and I don't remember exactly which company it was, but they give their employees the option of working a 4-hour workday 5 days a week, or like a 6-hour workday 4 days a week, or something condensed like that. Same salary, and they've seen an increase in their productivity way beyond having people come in working a typical 8-hour workday, being tired, wasting tons of time on social media, or just
being unproductive.
And then going home. Like, being able to go into work, and I'm 100% positive I can condense the amount of work I do within a day to 4 hours.
In most full-time jobs now, where we're working 40 to 50 hours a week, it could definitely be condensed to a lot shorter than that. We're definitely filling those times to get those overtime hours or whatever it may be. But I also read a recent study very similar about proposing 4-day work weeks and 3-day weekends. And honestly, I was talking to a couple people at work, and we were like, we would be so much more productive if we had Mondays off.
Yeah. Although that kind of leads to an escalation of, well, like, maybe let's just give us Tuesdays off too. Anyway. But let's talk about something you touched on a bit, and it was women in the workforce, and especially within leadership roles. It's something that I've seen lack a lot within a number of different companies that I work for in the past. Do you think that is something that is, within your experience, is that something that we're seeing an increase of? Do you think that companies are paying attention to the new demands that millennials are making, like more people of color, more women in leadership, I already know that they're not really paying too much attention to the demands on work schedules. But are some
Right.
of those, you think some of those demands are being met within the millennial workforce?
I do think slowly but surely those demands are being met. And I think a lot of that also has to do with the baby boomer generation exiting the workforce, and us being able to have more influence and say within company cultures and changing the how that's perceived with being a woman in power, or and then having a stay-at-home dad.
Right.
I definitely think we are seeing a lot more of that being more and more common. I've definitely had a few women managers, like in my last few positions. So that's been a nice, like, refreshing thing to see.
Tell everybody what you do currently.
Currently, I am doing IT, technical recruiting and staffing downtown at a place called JobSpring. And so what we do is we help people get jobs within the IT world here in Philly, and we also help companies staff their IT positions.
Now, one of the things that's been a high resurgence of entrepreneurs in the workforce is the threat of automation and the threats of all of these jobs that are going to be either shipped overseas to companies that they can pay lower wages for, or to just, a robot's going to be doing my job. And that's one of the biggest threats is IT. That also counts in service industry, and all really service industries, transportation, retail,
a lot of them, right?
service.
Yeah. We're seeing a lot of those automated, those Pepsi Cola robots rolling around campuses, delivering sodas and snacks to
Wait,
kids.
is that a thing?
That's a thing.
What?
Yup. Yeah, that's a thing now. It's primarily only on the West Coast over in Seattle. But yeah, like, they're definitely pushing for a lot more robotics and a lot more, AI. Data science is the number one recruited for and placed position within America right now.
Wow.
Which is kind of
Didn't know
crazy. Yeah. And we're definitely seeing technology continue to take things over. It's not going anywhere within everyone's day-to-day lives, and our cell phones becoming more and more apt and crazy with all the things they can do in the power of our palm. So I definitely don't think that's going anywhere. And while it's taking away a lot of those physical jobs and manual labor in certain aspects, it's definitely increasing other jobs in developing and, the technical space in that sense.
So that brings me to my next question, which is, I know I personally blame baby boomers for a lot of the conditions within the workforce that we have today. But are millennials partly to blame for our appetite for convenience? And I think that it has been something that millennials aren't really dealing with well, or just acknowledging within themselves that our convenience has increased the opportunity for a lot of these jobs to be replaced by automation. Is that something that you think is going to be a reckoning coming soon?
It could come to bite us in the behind. It's definitely very possible. Like, one thing I was mentioning the other day, my boyfriend's making it like a smart house. Like, we can tell Google to turn on the TV and the lights and this and that. And I'm like, at what point does it get too much? Where, I should be getting up to get the remote, or is Google or Alexa listening to me, having my conversations when I'm not talking to them? That also freaks me out, like, a lot.
I feel like this can easily spiral into a whole different conversation about my conspiracy theories with the technology overlords.
Oh, yeah.
Because, yes, they actually are. There is data out there that shows that they are actually listening to every single thing. When you have these Google Homes or Alexa, they are actually recording and listening to every single thing that is being said, whether you are using the device or not. It's constantly on and pinging back to their servers. But that's a whole other thing.
It is. But I just definitely think those kinds of situations and those kinds of kind of not realizing how we're automating all of these processes and how maybe we should keep it a little bit more humanistic. We need kids to know how to speak to one another and not just communicate over text and over a computer. So I do think those kinds of things could come to,
bite us in the ass.
Yep, exactly.
It's something that, I think we, rightfully so, a lot of the baby boomers that are still in the workforce are, in turn, we're blaming them for the conditions of service jobs and those other jobs that are still in place, but they're blaming us for replacement of their jobs because of the convenience factor in IT and all of those different things that automate what they can do and are putting them out of work, essentially. That's one of the biggest things with this renewable energy surge and
Right.
how so many coal jobs were put out. And yes, coal is a very prehistoric kind of way of finding energy, but it still puts thousands and thousands of people out of jobs. So it's something that I think it threatens the millennial generation more than the baby boomer generation.
I think yes and no. I think the threats go both ways, and like the blame game could go, all day long between the two generations. But in particularly, like, yes, the coal industry is going out, and all of those manual labor, miners who have not really a whole lot of experience with any other technical skills or anything, that could get them a more warehouse related job. Yes, that's definitely going to hurt like the economy and things in the short run, but in the long run, those renewable energy sources are going to allow changes within the environment that we've seen happen over the last few years and whatnot. Exactly, to definitely change within the next few generations. So again, I think it goes back to millennials really caring about what we're doing and not just doing a job to do a job. Like, I think I know my mom had told me this, like, yeah, she was a secretary at a doctor's office just to afford childcare and whatnot. And, she was like, I definitely wouldn't have done that if I didn't have to do it.
Right. I think you speak to something that I know I personally felt. It's kind of what really started me into doing this podcast. Is I don't want to say it was like something spiritual or higher calling, but just something that I can add value to, and that it's my own, and that I don't feel constrained from the creative mindset or just my personal ability to do things, whereas a company limits you, and they limit what you can do, when you can do it, the creativity behind it, and ultimately it's just not yours, and you can be replaced at the end of the day.
Right. And I think that's definitely something, that we're dealing with more and more as our generation wants to evolve, and we want to make these impacts and these changes within cultures and companies. It's not going to happen overnight, and we're realizing that, but the more we push for it and the more we really advocate how much more productive you can be when you have those shorter work days, or if you have a longer weekend, we will slowly see the change. But in the meantime, you definitely need to find that outlet. You need to find that blog. You need to find that podcast, or put yourself forward to start making that impact in the community as well, because it starts with us.
What advice do you think you could give yourself 5 years ago, given what you've experienced throughout your career, leaving a job and pursuing something else so that you can have a little bit more creativity and being able to throw yourself behind your blog and getting into more of your passion? What advice would you give yourself?
I would have told myself to do it sooner. Yeah. Take the leap. When you're afraid, being uncomfortable is the only thing that's going to make us be better people and, improve these situations. So really get comfortable being uncomfortable.
That's hard. That's super hard to do, because you're going up against a system that has told you to stay comfortable until you are stable enough to do something, which almost, who knows when or if that ever happens. Exactly,
and that's always going to limit you. So, yeah, I think that's one thing I really enjoy about this new job is every day I'm like forcing myself into these uncomfortable situations, but I'm personally developing so much.
That's dope. That's really dope. Apparently I say dope a lot. I'm gonna cut that out. All right. So plug time. Tell us about your blog.
Okay, that's Carlita's Closet, if you haven't heard already. On Instagram, I write my own website based off of Squarespace, and really am getting the word out there. I've been a lot more consistent with the last few months since I've been able to put a lot more time and energy into it. I've been able to immerse myself within the Philly fashion blogger community, which is really cool.
Which is like a really big community that I'm finding out.
It
like,
is.
It is not that I'm into the Philly fashion blogger community, but like I see the interactions, and I have a few blogger friends, and it's a huge community.
It is, and it's awesome how it's growing, and we're continuing to, advocate for these events and things around Philadelphia to bring all of these like-minded, entrepreneurial, spirited women together. And I've never been surrounded by so many women who want to see other women succeed, which is really empowering.
That's dope. All right, one last question that I ask everyone. What's your most favorite thing in the world right now?
Okay, so I was totally prepared for this because I listened to all of Salah's podcasts. I wasn't caught off guard like a lot of other people.
Thank your homework. I appreciate that.
But right now, it's definitely Game of Thrones. I'm a recent fan. I just started watching in January, caught up before Sunday, and I am definitely, it's my most favorite thing right now.
You did some serious binge watching.
I definitely did some serious binge watching.
Did you watch the latest episode?
Yes, I did.
It was pretty good.
It was amazing.
Seriously, I know there's a lot of people out there that are like, oh my God, more Game of Thrones. But like, get over yourself. It's a really good show.
And like, seriously, I wasn't into it. I totally was one of those people who was like, oh my God, why are these people watching this every Sunday? And now I'm totally obsessed.
It's a good show. Carlita, thank you very much. Carlita's Closet, you can find her on Instagram. Where else can we find it?
Facebook and my website.
Perfect. Thank you, Carlita.
Thank you, Salah.
Good conversation. All right, special thanks to Carlita for sitting with me today. Again, you can follow her on Instagram and Facebook. Also, her website, carlitascloset.com. It's a conversation that I really, really have wanted to have with her for a long time, that I've had with some friends on a regular basis, and challenging the expectations and the standards that are in place in today's workforce. We've evolved. Our society has evolved. We as people, our expectations have evolved. Yet we are still confined to a workforce and system that is representative of the 30s, 40s, and 50s. And that just doesn't make sense. Companies that don't offer maternity and paternity leave. Companies that still expect you to work 8 and 10 hours consistently with no break. These are just unrealistic expectations on the workforce that hinder creativity, that hinder individualism, and that really don't allow you to pursue things that you're passionate about. And just for the record, you shouldn't have to choose a career of passion or financial stability. Those things should fall in one and the same. They should line up perfectly for everyone, and being able to financially support yourself based on your creativity, based on what you provide to a company or what you can build within yourself. So challenge your workforce, challenge your place of work, challenge the institutions that are in place in order for the generation that's coming after us to have a better opportunity, because they're already going to be trying to change the workforce that we are creating, and it's going to be in place for them. So let's just make it a little bit easier for that next generation. Again, you can follow me on Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter at Salah's Corner. I have a really, really special guest coming up for you guys within the next few weeks. I'm going to be sitting down with Council Member at Large, Derek Green. So if you have any questions, I know some of the biggest questions that some of my listeners have asked me is, what exactly does a council member do? What is at large versus district? Submit those questions to me at realtalk@salahscorner.com. You can also find a survey to fill out and submit your questions that way on my website at salahscorner.com. Remember to rate and subscribe on Apple Podcasts. And until next time, peace, y'all.